Yeah, thanks for coming. I just want to add that during COVID, there was no official cemetery program. That this is the first program after 3 years of not having any, and we always appreciate the 79th New York Highlander reenactors for what they do. When we had COVID, we had an impromptu program. Several members of the Knoxville Civil War Roundtable that I belong to came out here, and even though it wasn't formal, we knew there would be people roaming the grounds, and we would have a crowd about like this, about 30, 40, 50 people. So I appreciate everybody being here on this very cool Memorial Day, one of the coolest days I can remember, Memorial Day. And there was me, and then there was Randy North with the Civil War Roundtable, and there was Dewey Beard, who was also with the 79th New York Highlanders. And I think we just want to spend a moment to remember Dewey, because this is one of the most impressive guys you want to meet. I don't think anybody knew more about the Civil War history than Dewey did. And we lost him last year at an early age, I think in his mid-50s. And he would usually give a talk about the history of the 79th, but this gentleman, this officer here, did a great job doing. And so we did this for 3 years. I'm glad to see that we're back into some normalcy now and have an official program. Just briefly, you may not know this, but Memorial Day is to honor those that died in the service of our country, the ultimate sacrifice. That's different from Veterans Day, and that Veterans Day is to honor all our people who served in our armed forces. So that there is a difference in the two. And Memorial Day did start a few years after the Civil War ended, like the late 1800s. And it's a little bit of an argument who really started Memorial Day, but it was started by ladies going out and laying flowers on the headstone and the graves of those that died during the Civil War. They did it up north and did it down here, so there's a little bit of controversy who actually started the Memorial Day. But fortunately, we do have it as an official holiday today. And this cemetery was started when General Burnside marched in here. This became an open city. They took the 5,000 Confederates here, took them down to Chickamauga area to serve under General Bragg, and were part of that big battle down there at Chickamauga. So this became an open city, and Burnside was in Kentucky, and he'd been encouraged by Lincoln for a long time to come down into East Tennessee, where there's a lot of Union support, a lot of Union sentiment during the Civil War. So Burnside finally came in and marched in on September 2nd. And then a couple of months later, they had the Battle of Fort Sanders on November 29th. So this was started when Burnside got here, and one of the first orders he gave is we need a cemetery for the Union dead. So he sent his staff officer out to check around Knoxville and see what they'd come up with. They came to, I think it's a perfect location. You can see we're on a little knoll, a little hill here that borders the Old Gray Cemetery. The Old Gray Cemetery was already here, and then it just made a lot of good sense to put this cemetery for the Union dead on this nice little hill bordering this cemetery. So that's how it started. I think there might be a mistake in the program that said the cemetery was started after the Battle of Fort Sanders. But I don't think that's so. The first of the dead, these headstones are numbered, and number 1 is right up here in this corner, and it goes in time the way they were buried. And you can see the 79 New York Highlanders are, a year or so into at least a couple months later after the cemetery started. So the features of the cemetery, just mention these briefly. They're kind of a unique design. You can see these are in circles. They're in concentric circles, meaning they start at the small circle and kind of go out like this. That's kind of a unique design that they created. There is the one monument to the Confederate soldier with the 9th Kentucky. We don't know how he got here, but if you want to go visit his grave, there's a small tree, I think it's the dogwood, close to right over there, right behind where we were standing a few minutes ago, and you'll find the one grave, and you know it's Confederate grave because it comes to a little point at the top. It's not rounded like these Union graves, and it says Captain, I believe, Coleman with the 9th Kentucky Cavalry. So he's buried there, and that'd be another good project for a scout, wouldn't it? Figure out how he got buried in the National Cemetery, because it's supposed to be limited to just the Union men. We also have General Neyland of football fame. This first row, right against that fence, that iron fence. You'll look through there and you'll see General Neyland's headstone. There's nothing particularly fancy about it. It's a very ordinary stone. It's just the same as these, so you have to look closely to find him over there buried. We also have a General Cooper. It's one of the few men in the Civil War that went from the rank of private to general, and he was from this area. He had gone into Kentucky to join the Union Army and became elected captain, and through the war his rank gradually grew, so that he was actually in the Atlanta campaign under Sherman. So he's buried in that far corner of the cemetery. You go to the very far corner and you'll find his grave. Again, it's just an ordinary looking grave. And of course we have our beautiful monument here. This is the Union Monument. This is the second monument. The first one had an eagle on top, and lightning struck it and blew it up. So they rebuilt it. I think this time they put a lightning rod in this one so it wouldn't blow up. So it's very unique design. You can see it's in the shape of like a fortress with the soldier at top. Inside that little, what looks like a little room is designed like a small cathedral. And many people don't know that, but 30,000 men from Tennessee joined the Union Army. Even though Tennessee has seceded, it was a Confederate state, 30,000 from this area, East Tennessee area, joined the Union Army during the war. And then you'll also, if you look at these headstones, you'll see some of them say USCT. And that might surprise you, it stands for United States Confederate Troops. So they are scattered around the cemetery, so if you see those, you'll know what that means now. And then I think the last feature I want to point out is, I don't know if you know the story of the Sultana disaster. These were a group of Union soldiers coming home after the war on a steamboat that blew up north of Memphis on the morning of April 27th. It's about a month ago, April 27th, 1865. It's the worst maritime disaster in American history, and a lot of people don't know about it. But we have a strong connection from East Tennessee because of all of the different Union states represented. Tennessee, a state that has seceded, had 400. We had the second most men on that boat when it exploded, and about half of them died. So the total death rate was 1,200. This is a historical fact that many people don't know. I got into it about 30 years ago. We have a Sultana Descendants Association, and there were 6 survivors who are buried in the cemetery. I brought out some white, small white wooden crosses and placed 4 of them. There's 2 of them right against this last row, against this brown fence, this rock fence. You'll go over there and you'll see a small white cross that says Sultana Survivor, and put one over here, one over here. So if you see what that is, you kind of know, and you can look that up on online, and we have a Sultana museum site, and we have a website, so there's something there to look at. And lastly, this issue, the Hallowed Ground that comes out, mentions the Knoxville Cemetery. So I thought that was impressive. It's the history on the cemeteries in the United States. And of course, a lot of the national cemeteries started as Civil War cemeteries. This one is run by the VA, which you heard mentioned over there, and other cemeteries are run by the National Park Service, usually where a big battle was fought, like in Marietta, Georgia, or Middle Tennessee at Stones River. So thank you for coming out. It's gotten a little warmer over the last hour or so, so make yourself at home, visit these headstones. And one nice thing I did think about, we had the 79th. They died defending this city November 29, 1863, and they were buried here. But there's another monument down there that is to the 2 Pennsylvanians who died defending this town against the Confederate forces on November 29th. So just want to point that out. Thanks for coming. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.